Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Hell Yes podcast. Guys, I had some technical difficulties making this episode, and I am so sorry, but here we are. A little bit about what's going on in my life, if you don't follow me on Instagram, is I am getting my deck redone at the moment. The weather just destroyed it this particular winter, and I knew I wanted to get it done anyways because I wanted something more aesthetically pleasing, something that I can really utilize and love. So the guys have been working on the deck all week. It's been quite noisy. And I said, you know what? Let me record my podcast episode in nature. So I drove to this beautiful location where I was able to just watch the water and people watch. And it was a really nice time, honestly. But it was a hot summer day. Well, it's not summer yet, but it felt like a summer day. It was a hot spring day, and I had the air conditioning blowing, and I was just recording the episode. And when I played it back for myself, all I hear is the air conditioning over my voice. Like, it was driving me nuts. And I could have posted it, but I'm just really weird about making sure that the microphone is crisp and you guys can hear me well. So we are re-recording this episode. No big deal. I don't mind. I love talking to you guys. And today we are going to be discussing a very important topic. At least it's important in my life. I am the kind of person where I will write down a bunch of concepts for my podcast episodes or even for my YouTube videos. And then something will come up, whether it's in my real life or I'll see it somewhere, whether it's like on TikTok or the TV, and it will make me really want to discuss the topic in depth. And today's topic is about desire versus desperation and how to be able to decipher the difference. And when we are discussing these things, it's not just about relationships. It could also be about career, opportunities, friendships. And honestly, you can apply this to most situations. If you think about it, when we are discussing manifestation, a lot of our manifestations come from our deepest desires. But how do you know if it's a desire or if it's coming from a desperate, hopeless place? And that's something that we're going to be discussing today, and why it maybe applies to my own life and how I was able to conquer that. This retrograde has hit me so flippin' hard. When I tell you guys, I am not one of those like astrological people who knows all about the different signs and things like that. Like, I know a decent amount, but I don't know much. What I do know is this: I am a rising Capricorn, my sun sign is a Cancer, and my moon is in Scorpio, and my Venus is in Leo. So with all that being said, I do know that Cancers are deeply affected during this retrograde / the eclipse month. And I was feeling a multitude of things. I was experiencing the weirdest experiences, number one. Number two, I was feeling lethargic and not super motivated. And number three, I was vacillating between wanting to go out and like experience life and then wanting to be in a cocoon. Like, I was really just not sure as to what I wanted to do. So what I did was I took a step back, gave myself an emotional reset, got myself together, and I was able to really just sit down, do some shadow work, talk to my life coach, who I love speaking to because we talk about things that I normally probably wouldn't talk about in my day-to-day life. And I actually went out with my girlfriend this weekend, and it was incredible. I had the most amazing time. And now we're here. And I want to discuss what I think can really come from this episode. I would categorize myself as an expressed woman. When I think of myself, I think of someone deeply passionate, and that is a blessing and a curse. I'm going to call it more of a blessing these days because I am learning how to embody all of these things in a way where it works for me and not against me. Some of the qualities of an expressed woman could be authentic, creative, sensual, secure, confident, and magnetic. And when you are growing up, or maybe you're just experiencing meeting people or just being around other humans, if you are someone who is an expressed person, a lot of the times it could be received really well or not great at all. And that was literally my entire life. I would either be deeply adored or deeply hated. It was never anywhere in the middle. So when I was in high school or middle school or whatever, I would have like a huge hater who would like literally die on the hill of like, I hate Haley Gamba. And then I would have a lot of really close friends and people that really loved and adored me. And I think it's just because when you are an expressed person and you are someone who kind of wears your heart on your sleeve and you are someone who is deeply passionate and creative and a little bit odd at times, there will just be certain people who love it and certain people who hate it. And that honestly goes for any person. But the reason why I think this is important is when I think about being an expressed person, I think about being someone who has very strong desires and very strong manifestations. And I can think back to as young as like 5 years old, where I would watch TV and I loved the Olsen twins. I loved Hilary Duff. I loved Tyra Banks. Like those were my people. And I would look at these girls and be like, oh my God, these are it girls. I'm going to be just like that when I get older. And so many people could like make fun of me. I was even thinking about like bullies and things like that the other day about bullying. And people have asked me my whole life, like, were you ever bullied? And I would always be like, no. But like when I think back to it, like I definitely was bullied a little bit in elementary school. Nothing crazy or drastic or like monumental, but like I've definitely been bullied and like left out of things. Like there would be girls who would have parties and they purposefully would not give me an invite. And when we were all at recess, they would all like huddle around each other and like whisper and say, Haley can't hang out with us. Like, but because of how deeply passionate and creative I was, I really did live in my own head, in my own universe, and in my own world. When I would go home, I would put on something that I would see the Olsen twins in, like I loved all of their movies, or Hilary Duff, and I would just embody that. Like if you think about Hilary Duff and Lizzie McGuire, like she was kind of bullied too, you know? So fundamentally, I am a passionate woman. I have many flaws, but also many strengths. And my strengths are, or I should say one of my biggest strengths is that I have deep desire. Now, when I think about the type of conversation I want to have today about desire versus desperation, I think about how when we are manifesting, I want to help people and help myself manifest from a place of desire and not from a place of desperation. Desires are placed in us by God. They are things that you intuitively feel in your heart that are meant to be placed in your life. So when I think of like my deepest desires, I think of motherhood, being a wife, being an entrepreneur. These are things that we were brought on the earth to do. And when I think about the feminine movement or when women talk about decentering men, which I love this conversation so freaking much, and maybe we'll do an episode on it. I've talked about it a little bit on my channel, but I will probably do an episode on it. But when I dove deeper and really looked inward, I realized that a lot of these things can be misconstrued as negative things. Like when you hear the term decenter men, I think a lot of men or interesting women will misinterpret that as hate men, don't talk to men, don't want anything from men. Like that is not what decentering men is about. Decentering men is being so focused on your own life and loving it that you're not fixated on something that you don't have at the moment. Because at the end of the day, if you have strong desire and strong manifestation, it will all align and it will happen in due time. So when I say out loud, I want to be a wife, that doesn't mean I want to be a wife to anybody that will pick me. There is a difference. And that is the difference between desire and desperation. When I think of the word desperation, I think of when you are acting in a foolish way to get something that you want or that you think you want. It's when you are acting wounded and pathetic and having like a very insecure attachment style. And you are behaving in a manner that leaves your authentic fate stranded. We have all been here. And if you haven't, congratulations. But as a woman who is going to be 27 this year, and you guys know I mention age a lot because I feel like age has a lot to do with who I am. I'm telling you, it took years for me to get to this place. And I have to say it was time, experience, and age. But I digress. What I want to say is this. We have all experienced a time in our lives where we were desperate. When I think back to a monumental, desperate moment of my own, it was definitely high school Haley. I was so fucking desperate in high school. And I don't know if it was super obvious to the naked eye. I don't know if other people noticed it. I think a lot of people would have described me as super confident, but I know what my internal thoughts were. I had like two really close best friends and we all did everything together. And let's just say like one of my best friends got a boyfriend for the week. I needed to get a boyfriend for the week because I'm like, I want a boyfriend. And not saying that it was a comparison game, because it wasn't. It was more so of a convenience thing for me. I'm like, I want a boyfriend too, because if I'm being honest, I was always a hopeless romantic. I just was desperate for it. I could not wait for my moment to be kissed in the rain and to be taken out and, have like these wonderful experiences. Like I was ready to grow up, which sad thinking about it now because we're going to be old for the rest of our lives. I wish I was able to really stop time more as a teenager, but I think that this is a common thing that we experience as young girls. We just want to skip to the good part. You know what I mean? So when I think about a desperate version of myself, I think about how I was able to really get myself a boyfriend pretty fast. I'm not going to lie. I have dated guys in high school that I had no business dating, and it was very easy for me because I would pursue it. I would make it a thing. I would have one of my friends go up to the guy and be like, oh, Haley likes you. And, a lot of them would be like, sure. One of my biggest flexes is like, I've never had a crush that didn't follow through into something. Now, do they always stay? No. But usually if I have a crush on a guy back then and even now, it will get seen somewhere down the line, whether it's on a date or a kiss or something. But it's not always a positive experience because my crushes at times were out of desperation or me idolizing something or romanticizing something that I shouldn't have. But that's not really what the point of this conversation is. I have 100% done this where I wanted to control my life so much and want things done my way that I was able to, I want to call it fake manifest. I was able to fake manifest something for myself. If I wanted a boyfriend by Friday, I'd get one. And I had one. Now, was it a quality situation? No, it was not. And this is where we have to detach from our desperate versions of ourselves. The truth is, when you're desperate, you might actually get something quicker than you would if you were desiring it. That's the truth, because desperation usually gets mirrored with desperation. You cannot be a secure, happy, intelligent, patient person and think that you're going to get something super quick and it's going to be exactly like that. It's not a thing. You can't be secure and behave like that. It's just not possible. If you're insecure, desperate, and you are in a lack there mindset, you're not in an abundance mindset, you are going to think that you need to control every aspect of your life to the point where you are fake manifesting, whether it's a job, a friendship, a man, an experience. You are fake manifesting it and it will come into fruition. And then what happens is life teaches you that when you start to take things into your own hands in a desperate manner, that you end up regretting it. As someone who was and is still healing my anxious attachment style, it is something that you continuously work on the more self-actualized you become. I vacillate between being secure and anxious. The only reason why I vacillate is because my anxious attachment style stems from childhood and trauma. So it comes up at times when it's triggered. But because I have worked on myself for many years, I am getting to a place where I identify when I'm behaving this way. Because a lot of the times when you're an anxious attachment style, it is subconscious and you're behaving, in a manner that you're not necessarily doing on purpose. And now that I'm working on myself and have worked on myself for many years, I am way more aware of these behaviors than I was prior. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and say that I am 100% secure. But I will say this. I am more secure than I've ever been. And whenever anxious feelings come up, I allow them to. I am gentle with myself and then I fix it. Let's talk about why we should manifest from a place of desire and not from a place of desperation. Like I told you guys before, desires are things that were placed in us by God. If you are a believer or somebody who is spiritual, then you'll get this. There are certain things that are naturally placed within us that we were meant to be and meant to do with our lives. And you feel that in your gut intuitively. Now, of course, if you're someone who comes from trauma and you had a very interesting dynamic with either parents or previous relationships, then sometimes your gut could lie to you. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say that your gut is always right. Because if you're an anxious person, your gut will sometimes create a false narrative of craziness and chaos because you're afraid of the what ifs. But for the most part, your gut and intuition will guide you in the right direction, and you know what's right from wrong. So when I think about my deepest desires, this is what I think about. As early as I can remember, I always knew that I wanted to be someone who was either in front of the camera or on television or was doing some sort of speaking engagement. I remember when I was younger, prior to doing YouTube or anything like that, I was thinking of different career paths that I can do. And I remember for many years, my mom would always tell me that I should be like a sports commentator or a newscaster because I'm so well spoken and I love being in front of the camera and I love looking nice. And these are things that kind of are going towards that goal. Of course, I ended up doing YouTube and it was the biggest blessing of my life because it's exactly the purpose I was meant to walk in. And I maybe will do an entire episode on purpose and how to completely walk in it because I am someone who is the epitome of walking in my purpose. I am doing exactly what it was that God intended for me to do. And I know that for a fact because of the experiences I've had anytime I've tried to stray away from the path that He had set for me. Back to my earliest desires. I wanted to be in front of the camera. That was the first desire of mine. So how to manifest a desire is way different than manifesting a desperate moment. And we're going to discuss that. Then when I think about my newest desires, I think about marriage, I think about entrepreneurship, and I think about motherhood. I always knew I wanted to be a mother. That wasn't something that I thought about on a day-to-day though. I was not someone who felt a burning desire to be a mother. And more recently than not, I'm actually feeling it. I feel it in my body that I'm ready to be a mother. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm going to go find someone tomorrow and say, knock me up and get me pregnant because I want to be a mother, because that would be out of desperation. I have the desire because God wants me to be a mom and He wants me to walk in that purpose. But that doesn't mean that we pursue the desire in a way that ends up being premature or inappropriate for the time. So what I do with this desire is I walk in my purpose, I manifest it, I make sure that it is in my awareness and that I am living like the woman who will and is going to get that thing, and then I let it just happen. That is acting in a healthy manner when it pertains to your desires. You want to make sure that you work on your self-concept, you understand your power, and then you let it go. So when I talk about self-concept, I talk about what you see when you look in the mirror, and not just physical, but who you are on the inside. What are the things that are even in your blind spots? Like, what are you missing? And I know for me, for many years, I was becoming successful. I was becoming more confident. I was becoming more powerful. I was speaking better. But a blind spot that I was missing was my inability to release the obsession with being with someone. I wanted so bad to be with a person that I was in relationships, whether it was long or short, that were not serving me. They were things that were holding me back, making me sick, making me angry. And when I finally cut that part of me out, I realized that I had to learn how to pour into myself in my single life the same way that I would pour into myself if I was with someone. Because the truth is, whenever I was with someone previously, I would lose myself. And then I would meet someone again and I would do it again. And then I would meet someone again and I would do it again. And I'm not just talking about guys that I dated for long periods of time. I'm talking about guys that I would meet. I would throw my whole schedule in the fucking garbage just to talk to someone. And God kept presenting the lesson to me over and over again until I learned it. Haley, I am not giving you a man until you learn that when you get one, you still need to be you. You still need to operate in your divine, in your power, walk in your purpose. And even though I had accumulated so much success, so much power, so much wonderful things, the internal things I needed to work on. And I do believe that a part of it is desperation. And the reason I think that is because when you romanticize people, or you want someone to mold or fit into your life and you'll do anything to see it that way, you're desperate. Because why must it be something that you need to squeeze into place? It's like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Why are you doing that? That is desperation, not desire. Desire is, I'm meant to have this. It's an intuitive feeling. It's gonna happen. But until it does, I'm going to keep being me. No matter what it is, the job, the friendship, the man, the money, whatever. If you are acting in a desperate manner, you are going to get met with the greatest lessons of life. And hey, sometimes you have to really see that. You have to see it through. I know I had to. The amount of times that I've had friends and family and even just people like mentors or people I've watched online say, if you don't stop doing this, you're going to end up whatever. Like I would hear people regurgitate the same thing and I would just not listen. I would say, oh, I'm different or I'm the exception. You're not the exception, because the truth is usually what you are, who you are, is what you will get in return. If you're a kind, compassionate, hardworking, loving person, and you are aware, you are very self-aware, and you are always working on yourself, you're evolving, but you're giving yourself grace, you will get met with the same life. You will get met with those experiences. Now, that's not to say that every kind person in the world ended up super blessed, because that would be very stupid of me to say and insensitive. And I am aware that people have very shitty luck. And I'm not going to sit here and say that every single person who's been great has always had great things happen for them. But the truth is, you need to put out into the universe that you are meant for greatness. You are meant to have the life that you desire. And until you receive it, you'll be just fine. And what to do in the meantime, you may ask? Improve your self-concept, work on your confidence, get some hobbies, date people. Like one thing I've learned is I am so matter of fact and everything needs, like I'll meet a guy, right? And this isn't recent, but I'm saying, principally like back in the day, I would meet a guy and he'd be great. And the first thing I would do is plan our future together. And it's like, that is ridiculous. Like give it time. Let this person show you who they are. Why must everything always be rushed to the finish line? You have this strong desire that you're willing to be desperate for it. Don't do that. Don't become desperate for your desire. Let your desire happen the way it's supposed to. Let your intuition and your manifestation into the universe guide you. Because if you start acting desperately, you will get met with the life that you actually don't want. And you're going to be mad at yourself because you're going to say, all I wanted was this. Well, you wanted that, but you were chasing it in a way that wasn't intended for you. Say it with me, ladies. We attract, we don't chase. Do you know how frustrated I get when I meet someone wonderful and they fall short in some way? I get so mad. I'm like, what could I have done differently? And I have been really doing a lot of work on myself recently, because I'm not going to sit here and lie. I am realizing at this age, finally, I'm discovering new things about myself all the time. I am perfectionistic. And unfortunately, when you are perfectionistic, you attract people who are either also perfectionistic or are on paper perfect for you, but then there's something lacking. And I want to explain a perfect example. Let's just say you meet 3 different guys. This is hypothetical, of course. And on paper, the first guy, he is exactly what you wanted. He's handsome, he's tall, he has a great job, he's physically fit, he's smart, right? And you're like, check, 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 check. He's marriage material. But then you guys get face to face and there's no chemistry. You don't feel a spark. You realize that you have to kind of put on a perfectionistic attitude where you don't want him to see you for your vulnerabilities, but you want him to see you for how perfect you are because you think he's so perfect. And now here you are putting on a show. You're putting on a show. So this person never gets to truly see you. That's the first guy, right? And you're trying to figure out, okay, he says he likes me, but I don't feel it. There's a connection, but there's not. And you're so confused, okay? Then the second guy, same thing. On paper, perfect. But then when you guys get in person, it's still really great, but there's something missing. And you're trying to find what is missing. And I'm not going to sit here and say that we need to have perfect people for us, because that's not where I'm getting at here. What I'm getting at is you need to find someone perfect for you, not perfect in general. And this is where I messed up in my own dating life. The more I self-improved, the more I wanted someone who is just as quote unquote perfect as me. But the truth is, underneath the surface, I am not perfect. I am actually the opposite. I have a lot of flaws and a lot of qualities that I don't love about myself, and I actually want to embrace them this year. That is important to me because I don't want to attract someone who nitpicks me and who wants to only see the perfect in me. It's not an, oh my God, this person's so perfect. It's not sustainable. And this has a lot to do with desire and desperation, because you will desperately choose the person who you think you should be with, or the job you think you should have, or the friendship you think you need based off of how perfect you think it is or how good it makes you look. Because a lot of the times, desperation comes from a place of wanting something now and wanting it to appear perfect, like white picket fence vibes. So then we have the third guy, okay? This may or may not be a true story, but the reason I'm sharing this is because I'm learning as I'm living. And I'm learning as I'm living to share small tidbits with you guys to help you. And I don't care how bad things make me look, because at the end of the day, I am learning just like y'all. So now we have the guy number 3, okay? Also very handsome. Also physically your type. Also does decently well. Maybe there are some things about him that aren't as buttoned up as guy number 1 or guy number 2. But the difference is when you're with guy number 3, you're yourself. You're free. You're yourself. You're not, lying or putting on a show. You're not pretending, and you're just free. You're able to be your most authentic self, and authenticity attracts authenticity. When experiencing these things, you realize that although guy 1 and guy 2 are quote unquote perfect, I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for what I desire. And what I desire is someone who I'm in love with, that I have chemistry with, that will make a great father, that will make a great husband, that will make a great partner in life, that I can go through ups and downs with, that I can be myself around. That is what I'm desiring, baby. So I say all this to say that when you operate out of desperation, you will see your life be the life that you actually don't want. It's the absolute antithesis of what it is that you desire, because you took matters into your own hands based off of your own unhealed traumas and wounds. Because the truth is, if you are truly a healed person and a secure person, you would not chase experiences, especially if those experiences are running the opposite way. When things are meant to be, they will just be. Like, things will truly just happen for you because they're supposed to. And that's not to say that we sit on our asses and wait for things to happen, because I don't believe in that either. When I think about my career, I had to really sit with myself and say, did I build my career out of desire or desperation? Because I was a little bit worried for a second that the only reason why I have what I have is because I was so desperate to have it, that's why I got it. But when I really sat with myself, I realized, no, Haley, that's not true, because I desired this since a little girl. It was what I knew was meant for me, and I aligned my life with it, and I worked for it We can still work towards things that we desire, but to beg for it is not what we're doing. The truth is, if it wasn't meant to be, it just wouldn't have been. There's no such thing as accidental blessings. I believe that they were meant to happen, regardless of how blindsiding or unexpected some of them might seem. It was meant to be. So my career, although I worked very hard for it, and sometimes I'm like, holy crap, I built a following on my own as a random girl in Jersey. Yeah, I did, but it was meant for me. I was meant for this life or I wouldn't have it. I do believe that. I do believe that. And I am someone who is a powerful manifester, and I love to create and I love to share. It was meant for me. So going towards that goal allowed my manifestation to come into fruition. So when I think about motherhood, I think about, okay, well, what can I do in my day-to-day life now that brings me closer to receiving that desire? Well, the first thing I have to do is release it. I don't want it to be a thought on my mind every day, because the more you think about it, the more desperate you become. What I did was I got dogs. I took care of animals first. I mean, that is a great way to test your skills on taking care of something. The next thing I did was I practiced nurturing habits in my day-to-day life. I am someone who loves to help and give back, and that is something that is nurturing. I also nurture myself, because what you want done for you, sometimes you need to do for yourself first. So whenever I think of wanting a provider or wanting a man that does X, Y, and Z, I do all of those things for myself first. I do all of those things for myself now, because that is me making it a norm for my life so that I attract people like that. I swear to God, the way you will see your life flourish when you do this. I met men that were exactly similar to me. I'm not going to say just like me, but similar to me, the more I started walking in my purpose. I attract success. I attract health. I attract wealth. I attract self-actualized people. And the reason why is because that is what I've been working on. That is what I've been doing. I said this many years ago in one of my manifestation videos about how can you manifest a fit, sexy, blah, blah, blah type of partner, but you're not doing that for yourself. You're not fit. You're not sexy. You're not, doing X, Y, and Z. And do I think that some people get very lucky and they're not fit and they get a fit partner? Sure. But that is not how I manifest. What I like to do is I like to become the manifestation. I like to dream big and then become the dream. And then what ends up happening is the dream ends up chasing you. So I become the person that I desire. And I also heal the parts of me that behaved out of desperation, or the blind spots that I didn't know existed, because maybe the reason the desire hasn't come true yet is, even though I've worked on myself immensely, the parts of myself that I haven't worked on yet are the parts of myself that needed the most work in order to attract that desire. I hope you guys were able to follow along with this. It is so important that we ditch the feelings of desperation. We will see our life go exactly the way it was supposed to go if we just release it. Again, how to manifest your desires and get rid of feelings of desperation is you need to work on your self-concept, understand your power. Remember, there is a lot of power in the tongue and in your thoughts. Don't think negative things about yourself. Don't think negative things about your life. Don't speak those things. Only speak positivity, abundance, and love into your life, and you will see it come back to you tenfold. And then after doing that, you want to let it go. I don't want to hear I did those other two things, but you didn't let it go yet because you're still talking about it. Let it go. You know how people say that you fall in love when you least expect it? It's because those people let it go. They released it. And then it found them. If you're thinking about it too much, it's because you're not supposed to have it right now. You need to work on your anxiety, your desperation, and your self-concept. These are things I've done. I'm still doing them. I'm still working on them, but I check myself every chance I get. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it. Let me know on the Hell Yes Podcast Instagram what other topics you guys want me to address. Make sure to follow me on there. Follow me also on my main page at Haley Gamba. I love you guys so much, and thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.